Hey, where y'all at? Oh, okay, I see y'all now, man. Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't see you guys at first, man, but I see y'all joining me and everything. I appreciate it very much, guys. So as you guys know, we have the U.S. Championships going on right now. So I figured I'd go ahead and grab you the game. Wesley Soul versus Christopher Yu. Like I said, from round 2. It's a pretty exciting game. I was able to find a picture of them actually playing. So this is them in the hall in all their glory. But yeah, I appreciate everybody very much for stopping by. Anybody who is coming from the Philippines, as always, it's been a minute. So I will say mabuhay. Kamusta na aking mga kaibigan? Masaya ko makita kang muli, because it has been a very, very long time. So hello ulit. Nice to see everybody again, very much. I appreciate it. But yeah, man, if you guys are ready to go, man, let's take a look, see what we got for this game, bro. All right, so we got the move E4. You know, best by test, as Bobby Fischer used to say. We got E5, we got knight to F3, we got knight to F6. So, a la Fabiano Caruana, we are going with the Petrov's defense, also known as the Russian game. We got knight taking E5, we got D6, and you guys are going to see everything going down mainline stuff. This is like pretty much almost tip-top moves that we're going to be seeing here. We got knight taking, like I said, and we have the move D6. We got knight back to F3, knight takes E4. We got D4, D5. We got bishop to D3 and then bishop to D6. Castles. Then we do have the move C4. And like I said, this is all super duper mainline stuff. This is basically tip-top, you know, 1 or 2 moves available. And I mean, of course, you know, C4, all we're trying to do is, you know, make black capture here. So we can live the dream of capturing this knight for absolutely free. But you only see that, like, you know, in probably Scholastic games. You're not going to see Christopher Yu do anything like that. So he just says, I'm going to protect my pawn with the move C6. We got rook over to E1, and then we do have bishop to F5. And we got the move queen to B3. Why not hit this pawn? Because it's like the queen is hungry. There's a pawn. So let's go pawn grubbing, man. See what we can do. So we do see the move queen to D7. Christopher Yu says, bro, I'm not letting you get a pawn, bro. Like, what you think this is, son? So we see the move C3. You know, just to back the bishop up, and we do see the move bishop to C7. If we back up, though, after the queen came to D7, you can actually just apply more pressure to this knight in the center of the board, because as you guys can see, I'm sure this knight is like on the all-star team for black's side. It is all the way in the center of the board. This is exactly, in one of these squares, exactly where you want a knight to be. It is a true octopus. So, knight coming to C3. We would see knight taking C3, bishop taking F5, queen taking F5, and then the pawn taking C3, and then now B6 because that pawn is attacked, right? This is something that you could see, but we didn't see that. Like I said, we did see the bishop after C5 going back to C7, and then we do see the novelty of the game, which is queen going back to C2. You know, we're pretty much relating that to the fact that the queen moved a couple of times back to C2, so this is the first time that this has been seen. And we have the move knight to A6. You know, we're trying to say, man, I want to go knight to B4. And I want to get rid, because this bishop is actually pretty nice for white. So we want to try to get rid of it. So Wesley Soul says, man, I'm not doing any of that, bro. Don't do any of that, you know, knight to B4 stuff. So I'm going to just push out A3. We got bishop back to G6. We got knight to C3. We do see the move F5. And then we have just pretty much, like, you know, cemented that knight in the center of the board. And if you try to capture it, it's going to come at a price. With the pawn capturing back, and I just have a really, really nice pawn chain in the middle. So we do see the move knight down to E2. We got bishop over to H5, and then we do see the move knight to G3, which might look kind of strange because you're thinking, wait a minute, man. Like, why am I just allowing him to capture here? Then it's going to mess up my structure and stuff like that. But the thing about the situation is, it is going to force black to be in a kind of a situation that they don't want to be in if you allow it to happen. So let's go ahead and see that. Bishop taking F3. We will see pawn taking F3. And we have now just dislodged this knight from its super, super beautiful square on the board. So the knight would probably take here, and then you would be taking back with the H or the F pawn, H being the best. But you see, you kind of close things up a little bit here. But I mean, you lost that knight you had in the center of the board. So this is what black would have to do. So black is not trying to do that. So after the bishop did come to H5, we say knight to G3. We did see the bishop backing up to G6 because it was attacked on H5. And then we have a repeat of position, knight to E2, bishop to H5, knight back to G3. Wesley Soul basically saying, bro, what do you want to do? Are you going to take my knight or what? He's like, no, I'm not taking it, bro. So after the move bishop to G6, we do see the move B4. We see a rook A to E8. And I mean, I will say, you know, each side has a good position. I mean, black's side has a good position, white side has a good position. They have their pieces out. The only thing about the situation is that white actually does have kind of a bad bishop in this particular situation. You know, there isn't really a good place to put it. I mean, you definitely don't want to put it here, which is what we see in the game, bishop to b2. But I mean, think about it. Like, where can you really put this bishop where it makes any sense? You can't really put it here. You can't put it here. It's going to get snapped off by this knight, or just simply attacked, and it's going to have to remove. And then, I mean, there's not really anywhere else you can put it. So definitely this bishop for white is the problem piece. So the bishop does come to b2, but like I said, it's pretty much relegated to like a horrible existence. We do see the rook going to e6. We got knight down to e2. The queen goes to e7. We see knight up to e5. And then we do see the move f4. You kind of don't want this knight. If this knight can jump into f4, you actually have a really nice situation because you have liberated your knight, put it on a better square. You have kind of freed your pieces up a little bit. So, you know, black doesn't really particularly want that to happen. So that's why we see the move f4. Because, of course, knight takes f4 is going to come with a price because the knight's just gone. So we do see a knight taking g6, a rook taking g6, and then we do have the move f3. And it is a very interesting position because Christopher Yu just basically says, I don't care that you're attacking my knight, and it is for very good reason. We see the queen going to h4. So you kind of see, I mean, it doesn't look super deadly, but, you know, we kind of have a lot of pieces hanging out, you know, by this black king, or by this white king, right? And it would actually be very, very dangerous to capture this knight. If we did see that pawn taking e4, you would be seeing the move f3, and you see the bar shooting all the way down. That is really not where you want to be at, man, because you're looking at check here. This queen is able to come, you know, in this scenario. We got the bishop on the thing. Just don't do that, bro. Wesley So is like, bro, I'm too gangster for that. So after the queen comes to h4, he does go knight to c3, trying to, you know, attack this knight further. And then we do see the rook going over to h6. So you can see that. I mean, even though it's still fairly even, of course, the computer's like, hey, man, white's great. I mean, you can feel the pressure if you're the white side, right? So we do see the move h3. We got knight coming back to g5. We see queen over to f2. You have to do something to contest this queen because, I mean, all of these pieces, like I said, they're just kind of hanging out by this king, man. This bishop, if this pawn can move out the way, I mean, everything is everything for black. So we do see the queen going back to h5. Just, you know, you want to, like, if you are in a very attacking position, you do kind of want to avoid trades because that gives you one less attacker on that person's position. And so you don't want to oblige white by relieving the pressure, so to speak. So we do see the move of b5. And we are trying to deflect this pawn away so that we can grab this pawn. And I mean, you know, probably, you know, try to give this bishop a little bit of a better existence. So, of course, black doesn't want to try to do that. So he goes knight back to b8. And then we see the move a4. We got bishop going back to d8. We see rook up to e2. We're preparing to double here on the e file. The queen goes back to f7. We see king over to f1. We got knight down to d7. And then we do see the move a5. And we have reached a point in the game that if you do want to guess what move black plays in this position, go ahead and do so. Okay, cool. So some things I want to point out real quick, right? The first thing is, you know, white actually has a lot of pieces over here on the queen side. That's not really where their king is. They're not doing a lot on the queen side. I mean, they're not horribly placed, but I mean, they're not really doing anything to attack black's position in this particular situation. And so, I mean, you really kind of only have the rook and the queen kind of defending the king over here. But, I mean, you have a lot of pieces for black. I mean, this knight is in transition over here. You have these pieces all over here. They're basically like right in the vicinity of the king. So, you have a situation where you actually have the ability to sacrifice a piece as black. So, if you guys guessed it, I mean, of course, you can sacrifice the rook, but it doesn't make any sense. So if you did guess the move, knight takes h3, you would be absolutely correct, and you'd be a gangster, and I applaud you. Knight takes h3 is absolutely the move in this position. What you are doing is you are basically ripping all of the protection of white's king from around it. After the knight takes h3, pawn takes h3, you do see rook taking h3, and like I said, I mean, you have a lot of issues. This rook is coming down here at some point. This queen can, you know, try to swing over. This rook has some ability. This knight definitely can come over. And this bishop does have the ability to come onto this square. So you can see that white is not super, you know, comfortable with this position. So the queen goes over to g2, trying to defend. This does create a little bit of space for the king as well. The situation as it stands, even though, you know, black is definitely doing better, both sides, you know, black has to keep the pressure up. White has to play very specific moves to make sure that they are not getting mated. So we do see queen to g2, queen goes over to h5. We see the rook sliding over to f2. You know, we are trying to create some space over here. But we do see the move rook to g3 first, forcing the queen over to h2. And then the rook goes back to h3, queen going back to g2. And then we do see the rook going to e8. And this is like one of the absolute perfect moves because sliding rook over to e8 completely cuts this king off from any escape possible that way. So it's looking nice for black. Just a little bit, just a little bit. We do see the move a knight to e2 because, like I said, you have all these pieces over here on the queen side. You kind of have to try to get them over to the king side to try to, you know, mount some type of defense. So we do see rook down to e3, and I mean, this pawn is perfectly anchoring this rook, and also you're attacking this bishop. So it's like, man, that rook lift is major. So we do see the move rook to a3, and this isn't really a move that you want to really make. It's kind of a weird move, man, because it's like, I mean, you don't want to have to like lift a rook up just to protect the bishop, but it's like, where would you put the bishop? Like, it can't really go anywhere. You know, you don't want to, you know, disconnect the rook from being able to protect this way. So, I mean, it's not the most ideal way to have to move your rook. So we do see the rook going down to h1 with check. We see the knight going down to g1, the knight coming to f6, and you can see that, I mean, white is starting to get very, very tied down, and then black is just starting to slowly try to move their pieces into the scenario. The bishop goes down to c1, which is actually a really nice move because, I mean, initially this rook coming down to this square was like extra gangster, but now it's a little bit suspect. But the crazy thing is, it is not even suggested to move the piece. It is actually suggested to do what Christopher you did, and that is actually queen to h4. And you are just putting so much more pressure on white. And also, you do not mind this rook being captured because then it, you know, captures back with the pawn. And you kind of see the scenario that we see. Bishop takes e3, pawn takes e3. And this rook is actually really, really, really uncomfortable. So you can see that white is really having to put themselves in kind of binding type situations. And we have come to the point in the game again where I actually have a second guess the move part. If you want to go ahead and stop the video right now and try to guess and see what the absolute best move in position is and the move that Wesley so did find, go ahead and do so. Okay, so, you know, automatically, I think a lot of people, even me, myself, when I looked at the game, I was like, man, you got to move the rook somewhere, dude. So it's like, where do you move the rook to, right? It is actually not suggested that you move the rook at all. The absolute best move in a position and the move that Wesley so did find is actually bishop takes h7 with check. Basically, your position has gotten to the point where you have to kind of give something up to kind of like recoup of some of your losses. So you have to capture this pawn on e3. So after the bishop goes to h7 with check, queen takes h7, and then the rook takes e3. This is the only way to give yourself any ability to breathe in the position. You are still horribly losing, but this is a lot better. So if we back up, a lot of people I think would probably say rook to e2, right? It can't be that bad, right? Well, actually, knight coming to h5 is pretty deadly. You really don't have any way to protect all of these issues. And then you just have a whole bunch of discoveries going on. If the knight comes here with check, you're doing this and this. I mean, you're moving back away. And it's just, I mean, it's just not where you want to be at all. And plus, the most immediate threat is this. And it's just like, bro, come on, son. So we do see the game unfolding into this position right here, as we say. And Christopher Yu, understanding that the only piece that he really isn't using is this bishop. He goes bishop to c7. And I mean, the unfortunate thing about that is this bishop is so monstrous on this diagonal. And you can see that white's pieces are really just kind of jumbled up defending the position. We got the rook coming up to e7. But we do see the queen going down to b1 with check. And then we have the only move, moving the rook back. So moving the rook up to the 7th at that moment didn't really do anything. The queen comes up to d3 with check. The rook f goes to e2. We see the rook going up to h2. And this is actually pretty crazy because, like I said, that bishop was really deadly on that diagonal. And now it allows this rook to come up here and just basically get in the queen's face. So it is actually suggested to either go b6, which contests the bishop. But, I mean, the bishop can always move into a better position. This is always a square for the bishop to go to. Or simply just take the rook with your queen and allow the bishop to take your queen. Neither one of them sound desirable. You're like, why would I just leave my queen there? Why would I take, right? So Wesley, so thinking the same way, he goes queen to g5, still thinking, hey, I'm like, everything is good. This isn't a super horrible threat because this bishop, I mean, this rook is defending this other rook. This knight is defending, so everything's kind of held down, right? Well, after the move knight to h5, you realize that you do not have anything that you can possibly do. It is in this position that Wesley So does resign the game. Just to kind of hit a couple of points as to why he resigned the game. This knight, like before, has the ability to come to either one of these squares, attacking further this rook that is actually pinned down to the king. This bishop also has the ability to come here and just displace this rook up from protecting this rook. You don't have the ability to do any checks. Of course, if you can get this check in, oh, you're golden, right? And like I said, I mean, you push b6. This bishop can always just come and hang out right here if he wants to. You can always do this. Like I said, there are so many different scenarios. This knight can go anywhere. This bishop can go anywhere. This rook is good. White is just absolutely completely tied down, and this is just a completely losing situation. Let's say, for example, you know, you allow this pawn to take here. I mean, it's just going to be marching down the board. And there's not really a whole lot you can do to stop it. Also, this bishop can take here if it wants to. I mean, this is just a completely dire situation. It is actually suggested that the queen takes here. That is how bad the situation. It is almost mating. So that's not a position I want to be in, bro. So in this position, like I said, Wesley So does resign the game. And I mean, it's just it was just actually a really good game, I think, by Christopher Yu. And I mean, he's only 15. So it's like, you know, these young cats have always been like in prime position. But it's like when you're young like that, man, you have all day time. So, I mean, you want to devote your life to playing whatever you want to play, Fortnite, chess, checkers, whatever. You're going to get pretty good at it, homie. So that is that game. So I appreciate everybody very much for stopping by. Maraming salamat aking makaibigan, and I'll see you guys next time.